So today I'm going to be talking about how we can choose compassion as part of becoming mature. So I'll be reading a little bit from Sean. His online name he goes by is often Sheshan. It's interesting, online, like the online name, like the name of being in one line, like, right? Like, where it's not everything, it's like linear only. Interesting. Hashmatapur is his last name. So he says, like, social anxiety is something that holding back on creating content I enjoy, or avoiding he said, like, women, but I would say men or even friends, avoiding talking to people in the park, not speaking up on how I feel when someone would disrespect me, a lack of boundaries, loneliness, FOMO, which is, like, if anyone doesn't know at this point, it's fear of missing out, inner conflict, scarcity, feeling trapped, feeling disconnected, feeling frustrated. And he gives some steps on how to mature, because we all have to feel anxiety. And I would say some of my own personal messages. When I'm feeling anxious, we're like stuck in the mind and it's telling stories instead of feeling the discomfort. So for me, these are what, when I have social anxiety, it's usually because I've been rejected or abandoned or humiliated in a public way, or by somebody who I really care about, or in a way that makes me feel like I'm a waste. So these are like some personal messages that come up when I did a meditation to hear like what it means for me. So first of all, I got the message that I'm very lonely. I'm just desperate to be known. I'm fat and lumpy. I have like these tight fists, and I'm angry. I say no. I'm like thumpy, like blah, 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 blah. And then I'm also like like a sucking, breathless, hungry baby, like pathetic almost in an adult. Feeling a sense like whoever my lover was, my partner, he just left me. I'm shriveling up. I'm not loved. I'm hugging myself. It's like very withered, and feeling like I'm beyond punishment for revelation, because knowing that knowing more and losing more of myself is punishment in and of itself enough. Like feeling like I can't even do anything wrong because I already have to know too much, and ignorance is bliss. So in other words, like feeling like I'm beyond the rules now, because what more could I have to lose by the fact that nothing matters and everything matters, kind of. And then feeling like no one could ever love me enough. Like, not that I'm looking for this love, but feeling like the thought starts to say, no one could ever love me enough. I'm someone who needs so much love that no one could ever give it. Or I'm someone who needs so much comfort, no one could ever give it. Or pleasure, or nurture, right? So then he says, okay, we have to start from somewhere. This is all facing fear. This is connecting with people who thrive beyond fear and who open up about fear. So I'm clearly being that. I'm facing the fear in my own meditation, and then I'm bringing it to the table. And then hopefully somebody else can also do this. So this is this process he talks about. So first of all, we have to let go of perfectionism. And I'm going to apply this to what I was just talking about. I'm not going to be somebody who is always going to be the best looking version of myself. There's going to be moments I'm going to be really needy, and by pretending to be above that, those parts of me get stuck, and I'm going to have to act them out. This all of this goes together with feeling like, I can tell you because I started like this. So saying that this for me comes up with rejection, humiliation. No one is intentionally necessarily rejecting me or humiliating me. Often somebody feels rejected or humiliated, pushed past their point, and so they can't give us what we're looking for. So if I'm expecting people to be big love, giants when it comes to love, I'm really saying I want them to be mature, emotionally mature. And then people who are not emotionally mature, it's like not only perfectionism in me, but let go of like all interactions going perfectly. There are going to be interactions where people are not going to be so mature. There's difficult moments. Another thing he says is focus on what I like about my past. And I would say for me here, it has to do with specifically this one about still being open to being in relationship, even though I sometimes feel like this fat, lumpy, fisty, angry, no, thumpy baby who's like, And it's like, how could anybody think that's sexy? So for me, still being in a relationship, still wanting my foot massage, still wanting my hair caressed, still wanting to be admired, being kissed on my body, like in that way, feeling like that's the right way. That to me is a very brave thing to do when I feel like it's not a good fit for me to be loved. So in other words, I could apply to what I like in the past. It felt really good when somebody was just enjoying my body, for example. I didn't feel lonely, desperate to be known, fat, lumpy fist, angry, no, thumpy, sucking, breastless, one hungry baby, my husband left me, shriveled, self-hugging, beyond punishment because I know more. I lost myself, and I lost myself in having to know more. I couldn't stay as the one who didn't know, and all the ways in which I compensate for not knowing, and knowing that like nobody could ever love me enough, comfort me, pleasure me, nurture me, like that all goes away when I'm in the act of being loved. So that's what I like about my past. 3, stop doing things alone and get help. So one thing that I've noticed is that I might forget to talk to people about where I'm at in the process, thinking tomorrow they're going to hold it against me. I'm going to have to be in the same place. I can't be further along. So for me, a big one is getting help could mean asking someone advice on who are in relationships. Stop trying to be in a relationship by myself and be talking to people who are with men, not a man, not talk to a man about it. Talk to other women who are with men who may struggle with self-esteem or social anxiety, or may be very sensitive to all kinds of rejection, or may have body image dysmorphia. Like really just surround myself like he recommends with people who face the fear and open up with the fear and thrive past the fear and create and maintain these support systems to lean on. That's what he's recommending, that when we're facing the fear and we connect with people, we have a support system. Then he says journal intentionally, and I can say I'm doing that. But another thing I would say is that every day I have prompts, and I write about these things. And for example, my personal messages came from journaling intentionally. I want to learn about those parts of me that are being, a neighbor, that are being repressed, that are being not accepted. For example, feeling like my husband left me means that somebody's rejected me and said I'm not attracted to you anymore, and it makes me feel like I have to stay in my body about it. But actually journaling intentionally, I can start to get past thoughts. When I get past those thoughts, I can say, well, I have stopped being attracted to some people. And also there's something underlying the attraction. It's not just physical. There's an emotional component. There's a spiritual component for me. To be vulnerable with somebody and to share all of me, to bring all of me to the table, there needs to be emotional safety and connection as well. Then the next one, he said, and so I can get there when I'm writing about these things. I find safety even as I'm facing the triggers, for example, not just in my body in the moment. Number 5, he says, create quality relationships. So this is piggybacking off that. Emotional safety for me is a big one. Emotional validation, emotional acceptance, you don't publicly talk about things that are private. You don't publicly embarrass somebody. You don't violate the boundaries. You don't force them. You don't have an agenda to try to manipulate them to want to do something instead of just telling them what you want. And then number 6 is develop a clear vision of who I want to be. So this is like what growth is. Growth is, I want to be, and I just thought about this earlier today, who do I want to be in all this? Is I want to be peaceful. I want to be peaceful and not feel like there's somebody missing. So I want the peace inside of me that's soothing that baby, soothing that needy wife that I'm not even a wife, but or at least like not married. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe I'm a wife who's not yet married. But it's this, I'm saying like these labels are labels, but it's like it's really about someone making me their wife would be me committing to be with only them, would be, in other words, me being peaceful with myself, that even when they can't meet me in all these areas and save me, or, I might have to journal my way through it or have many support systems, or I may have to face, make sure that there's enough sexual chemistry. Like there's many ways to look at this. That's part of maturing, right? And then there's growth here. So growth is, according to Sean, he's saying you can do all this work anywhere: business, relationships, self, family, friends, hobbies, spiritual, education, health, intellect, culture, really, I think I added a few. I don't think he said all of those, and I paraphrase everything, honestly, but like I'm staying as clear as I can in line with what he said. So he says, stop complaining, listen more than we talk. Don't identify with components of worth. Become okay with not comparing ourselves to others. Stop judging others. Don't imagine up troubles that I start to begin to suffer now for, like bracing myself for it so I'm already learning how to suffer so I can handle it. Then finally, don't limit the energy I put into basically limit the energy I put into emotional indulgence. Don't limit my energy by staying too long in self-pity, overwhelm, self-doubt. And then I'm going to shift gears a little into talking about choosing compassion. This is from a talk I had with my friend. Her name is Arija. She's from Pakistan, and we are both like healers in this field and, learning about the self. And so we realized there's always a choice. Now, when we don't feel like there's a choice, I'm now going to work through a lot of different angles and see there's always a choice. So first of all, there's low self-esteem, feeling imperfect. And then there's a choice, there's perfectionism. So facing the low self-esteem is not a bad choice. It means I feel like, what did I say about myself? Fat, lumpy, fist, angry, no, thumpy, lonely, desperate to be known, sucking, breathless, one hungry baby. I could feel like if that was who I felt like I was, which I did in the moment that I was writing it, I'd feel so imperfect, right? The truth is that's not me all the time. The truth is that if I ignore that, I'm going to be stuck in perfectionism. I'm going to try to be perfect in all ways. That version of me gets stuck. I don't get to mature. Then there's like cloudiness and wisdom. Wisdom is not easy. Wisdom, we all know, comes from suffering. Suffering gives us the refinement that it's like part of maturing. We stop needing anyone to lean on. We stop having addictions. We stop being angry at the world for not meeting our needs. We stop calling people names and insulting when they don't do what we want. Like a wise person has wise speech, wise action, wise mentality, wise behavior, wise livelihood, right? Okay, then there's then the choice in self. There's always a choice to see the choice versus to be in judgment, discernment, and clarity. So when we're in the and this is why having a choice is not good or bad. It just is. So judgment, discernment, clarity, as you see very clearly, it's not really free choice. You see black or white, and you say, this is black. It's not white. There's no choice here. This is black. That means I'm using my judgment, my discernment. I see the ceiling's white, right? If I'm looking in this as a mirror, I'm using my clarity, my vision. It's clearly lit up by the daytime, and if I had my light on, as to be this color. So there's no choice. However, when we don't have judgment, counterintuitively, when we don't have, or maybe intuitively, counter-judgmentally, counter the way you might think, when we don't have the discernment yet or the clarity, we have choice. Another thing is change versus learning. Change, we're not yet learning. Change is happening. We have not learned yet what the change means. Learning means we know the meaning, significance, importance, value of the information. Change is information. It's becoming something. Change is becoming. Learning is reflecting. It's we can learn and be changing by our learning. But our learning is a reflection of the information that forms something, forms a new idea, a new habit. Then we have black and white thinking, which I mentioned, black and white thinking, versus I can tell the difference. So black and white thinking means that, and what I mean here specifically is when you have, this is black, right? It's all black. No. If you look close, I had some dust. Actually, I don't. I have a mark. It's not dust. Okay, it's not coming off. So anyway, that means I can tell the difference. Black and white thinking means it's all black, ceiling's all white. But actually, I can tell the difference. I see a small little dot on the ceiling. If I'm looking at all white, it's not all white. There are some black dots. That's another way. And then there's internal versus external. That's a calibration system. Is it in or out? There's an edge. Versus beauty or ugly. Beauty needs to be a watcher. I'm beautiful, you need to be outside of me. Ugly means I'm ugly, you need to be outside of me. Or there's ugliness in me that's looking outside, or there's ugliness outside looking at me. Beauty, there's beauty living in me, I see beauty. So there's beauty outside. So in other words, we kind of have to say there's this internal external factor where like maybe, like I said, beauty and ugly is like there's the other versus real beauty, real ugliness. Actually, the way that we really need to look at it It's not that I'm observing something that's pleasing to me or not pleasing. It's what's living in me already. It's therefore also living outside of me. Then we have mixed feelings versus secure and insecure. So mixed feelings means I could be excited and nervous. If I cannot be secure with mixed feelings, then I'll be insecure. However, there's always some level of mixed feelings because the past, having been there before, there is not that void. So even in the backdrop of the void, so if let's say we have guilt over creating a void so that we have no responsibility, right? We quit the job, there's a void. There's going to be mixed feelings because we were attached to the job even if it was stressful and we hated it. So if we're insecure with the mixed feelings, the void represents insecurity, will already have guilt and shame over creating a void. Now, let's say we don't. Let's say it was a great idea. Now we have this empty space. Empty space can still trigger the need to fill it up, which has nothing to do with the job itself. It has this idea of maybe attachments in other areas that, hey, I don't like to leave too much empty space, then I have too much time to think about other stuff, right? So there's this idea I'm trying to share here, which is a mixed state. It doesn't mean blended, like you mix red and blue and then you get purple. It means there's reds, there's blues, and they're all over in different ways. There's a compilation. And that is inherent security. That means you can lose pieces and still be you, right? Versus if you can only be secure when you're happy, you're really insecure because you cannot maintain the happiness as things inside become void or outside become void. And then we have at the end of this a triangle, but for now I'm going to do a few more of these doubles, right? What else I got here? Okay, overwhelmed feelings, right? Feeling overwhelmed. I don't know what whelm even means, but overwhelmed or over in front of my view, right? Or over in front of my view, or over, like I can't get over, right? This boundary. So the feelings are creating a barrier versus resisting pressure is actually is like the barriers coming in. So the overwhelmed feelings actually protect us, keep us safe from being unsafe. So resisting pressure is an experience of having something coming into us, right? Like I said, it's not over, it's coming in. So resisting pressure means now we have to put work. It's hard work to keep everything at a distance, to keep everything, to resist. It's hard work. Versus overwhelmed feelings is no work. The feelings are flowing. It's overwhelming to feel pressure. So actually, you might even say overwhelming feelings are healthy. They save us a lot of energy from having to work. Then I have here rules and skills. Rules, you do not adapt. You do the best that you can to follow the rules. Of course, you got to adapt yourself to the rules, but you follow the rules. The rules do not change. Versus skills. Skills are set of tools that have to be, you might have a handyman. He's going to have toolboxes. He's going to have electronic equipment. He's going to have mechanical equipment. There's going to be things that moving parts, and you're going to have to apply them in different pressures and different angles and move things around. There's a mechanical fixture way of constructs and structures. And skills, you have to adapt. You adapt the world around you. Skills is you can apply a little bit of pressure here, but no pressure here. Skills is you could invent a mattress that you put a glass on it and you jump on one side and the glass doesn't move, right? So skill sets is like learning how to stand on one hand, right? Versus rules. Rules is you walk on your feet. You get really good at walking, but you never learn how to develop the skill to stand on one hand. So skill just means you adapt the outside. You could adapt your body. But you're not adapting. You have to adapt your mind, right? To learn skills, you might have to follow rules. But in this case, I'm talking about specifically this angle, this one or the other, when it comes to there's a way to be versus there's a way to get what you want. You have to learn or to get the intended goal out of the situation. Then you have jealous and possessive, where there's something that you could wrap it up and it's an object, and you put that energy, mentality in your mind. You put a whole relationship into that, right? It's like you wrap it up, it's something, you put the relationship in there, or you put the home in there, or you put the money in there, or the job in there, or you put certain numbers in there, or you put certain things in there. That's where we start to become possessive or jealous. It's like belongs to us because you could put it that little. However, to trust versus the element of trust, this trust is a different type of interaction with the world, which is that there's more than enough, In other words, or there's not at all enough. In this case, it's mine, in jealous and possessive. In the other way, it's unlimited, or in other words, it's unlimited of not being there. There's so much of lack, or there's so much of abundance, right? So then we would say there's just so much, it doesn't fit in that ball. Or there's too little of it to even have a section for it. The last of the two, I actually have two triangles. I want to share them like that. Because I used the word adapting earlier for the skills, and I actually want to show that that's not really like that. But anyway, so embarrassment and shame over feeling hopeless, suicidal, is okay, so there's hope. Okay, so on one side of this, you have hopelessness, suicidality, and I'm not using that word casually, but I'm saying that the moment where somebody says, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. This is too much for me. I don't want to do this anymore. I give up on everything. They just collapse. And it may not be so extreme that it's an entire nervous breakdown in many areas of life with like a twitch where nothing comes back, or it could be for a moment, just complete overwhelm, or it could be for a week. You crash and burn. So it's like this hopelessness, this suicidality, versus on the other side of it, there's embarrassment and shame. This embarrassment and shame of being suicidal and hopeless is actually keeping the one alive, because it's telling the person, it is your fault. You're doing something wrong. You know God that wouldn't kill God's self. God made life not to suffer. God made it that you shouldn't want to end life. You are life. Why would you want to hurt your own life? So this embarrassment and this shame brings us to say, well, it can't be that I'm hopeless. I mean, there's people in worse cases than me. I'm embarrassed that I'm so pitiful, that I'm feeling like I want to die because, someone gave me a parking ticket. I don't even have a car. I'm just giving an example. So that was not me, but I'm just trying to give moments that are very realistic for all of us. There's moments where it's like, the kid is crying. I don't even have kids, but the kid's crying and the person just says, out for a second in their head, they would rather just end it all. What's the point of it anymore? So really, a second later, feeling embarrassed to be such a bad mother, or to be such a low life, self-esteem of somebody else, it would be that shame actually keeps us alive, because we don't want to feel that again. So we may not let these things get to us again. And it's very real. We're choosing compassion. And now I'm going to give you the two triangles. One triangle is healing, pain, caring presence. Now with a triangle, you have each point is in reference to the other. So there's 3 points. It's not like there's two and then one weighs down, the other comes up. These 3 stay in alignment. You apply pressure to one, it'll all collapse unless you also apply pressure at the same time to the other two. If you apply pressure to this one, the other one counteracts, compensates, right? So in this case, I'm giving a triangle here to show the difference between all these, tick-tocking pendulums. So this one we have pain, caring presence, healing. If we have more healing, there's more caring presence, we can feel more pain. Pain is not bad. We feel the pain more, right? May not be bad pain. Pain at that point is intensity, sensation. The stronger you get, the more you get to that edge of where it could really hurt. People who are athletes are at the edge of where they could break their bodies apart with a tiny little bend the wrong way sometimes, right? So it's like they're truly, truly, truly at the edge of that pain threshold. But that's because there's a caring presence. They're with their body so that it could keep getting pushed past what it did before. And there's also healing, which could be anything from rest, salt baths. I'm giving an example of the athlete, infrared sauna, myofascial release. All of that comes from this trifecta, right? You need to have all 3. You cannot heal without pain and without caring presence. You want to increase your healing, you're going to notice you're going to become a more caring presence, and you're also going to have more pain that you can tolerate. You want to become a more caring presence, you're going to have to increase your pain and your healing. Pain like wisdom-wise, right? And healing. Now the other triangle, just as a piggyback, but not really the main one. I mean, it's just as important, but I want to connect this earlier. I said skills and rules, right? Showing up, surviving, and adapting. These are 3 that come together. This is basically to give everyone a freebie that it's automatically already a program that's... So I didn't want to use the word adapting before, because we're always adapting no matter what. You're adapting, life is adapting. It doesn't matter how you look at it. Adapt. There's life as being constant change. So there's rules versus skills. I didn't want to talk about adapting because you're not really adapting the adapting world. You're not really adapting your adapting self. That's kind of where... So the rules are things that are don't adapt, and the skills are ways that you prevent adapting. So rules, you put a lot of work into keeping the rules. You prevent yourself from adapting anything that will break the rules. Skills, you keep on adapting the world to do what you want, even if it's anti-gravity, like a handstand, right? So including your body, but you adapt things. Now, adapting, you only have to show up. You will adapt by life, whether you're doing nothing or doing something, or you're always adapting. That's why you can't even have these conversations really. Like, are we always thinking, or are we never thinking? Like, are we feeling? And the third one is surviving. As long as you're adapting, right? Adapting is surviving. Now, this is why people sometimes talk about evolution, like Darwinian evolution versus like spiritual evolution. And I spoke a lot about maturity today. So I'm going to be saying adapting and showing up and surviving. We are naturally maturing. So everyone gets a freebie here. We're naturally maturing by being in life. All this that I'm bringing in here that I spent 25 and a half minutes now talking about and giving myself as like the sacrifice, like my pride and my dignity, and sharing how ugly I feel inside and these ugly thoughts that come in and these ugly feelings, and talking a lot about, all these balances. Everybody is maturing. This is just if you want to do more. It's if you want to build more. It's if you want to be greater than the basic, right? So thank you for spending time with me, and I look forward to sharing more tomorrow, and wish you well. Bye.